What is up, y'all? What is up? Welcome back to another amazing episode of Beat the Maze. It's EMB.
And it's your girl, Jasia.
And we have a special guest today. We got our good friends, the CannaGo team, Matt and Kevin. What's up, y'all?
What's going on?
How y'all doing? So, before we get started, we always like to talk a little bit about how you're doing, just where you are in this moment, and then we're also going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves to our audience. So, first off, how y'all doing today, Chase? How you doing, Matt, Kev? How y'all doing?
Well, I'm good. I'm excited for this episode. I myself am interested in seeing I'm not even going to give away too much of what's going to happen. We're going to talk about the episode, but I'm excited for the episode. Yeah, I have questions.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, doing real good in a positive place. So I'm ready for this.
Yeah, and I'm doing good as well. Once again, love to all the mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day to my mom as well. And we're really excited for the episode. Really excited to be here. So, let's roll.
So just jumping in, can you guys tell us a little bit more about who you are, what CannaGo is, and we'll go from there.
Hey everybody, Kevin Tolliver, co-founder and head of engineering here at CannaGo. A little bit about myself, I'm naturally a creative, ended up in tech because it's really pretty much combined my logical side and my creative side. So that's really what made me interested in software engineering. Went to Morehouse, graduated class of 2020 with Ian.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to go ahead and let Matt introduce himself as well.
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matthew Gaffney. I'm co-founder. I'm head of marketing here at CannaGo. A little bit about me. I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, like Ian.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? What's up? You know what I'm saying? I guess I found my way to entrepreneurship through a couple different ways, but through influences of my life, like my older brother. As well as I was always a heavy tech person, but was never the most technically inclined. I was always just good with numbers. So I went to STEM high school, found out about, started trying out entrepreneurship through this program there. Then launched my own social media marketing company, like small brand management stuff back in Philadelphia to save money coming up going to school. Robert to Morehouse, you know what I'm saying? Where, you know what I'm saying? Ian and Kev, you know what I'm saying? And Dick. That's where we all met. As far as CannaGo as well too. I guess like my main skills are primarily I pursued finance at Morehouse as well. So my background is a mixture of finance, marketing, and just sales. Do like sales and retail jobs I've had and stuff like that. But yeah.
So you guys know I had to deep dive into who y'all are in the background. And y'all, in that intro, I was waiting to hear it. Kevin, you did not tell anyone that you designed a computer game when you were 9 years old.
That's hard.
Oh, yeah. So let's get into that. Yeah. So when I was 9, I was going to this after school program, and I don't know, this guy named Kimo was he was a counselor there, and we used to always hang out. He said he was used to be a professional wrestler. Don't know if that was true, but he said he was in the WWE. So he was a real cool dude, real big into tech. So he actually taught me how to use this software. I believe it was called Mugen or something. And pretty much what you could do is you can take people sit up and design all different types of characters. So pretty much you would download the files, and then you could design the game yourself. So I was able to take a bunch of characters. It was almost like a Marvel versus Capcom type vibe to it. So I had Ronald McDonald in there. I had Homer Simpson, Bart Simpson, all types of different characters, and it was just a whole battle royale type thing. So yeah, did that at 9 years old. Still have the game somewhere. I have it on a flash drive back at the crib. Originally from Oakland, California. Just want to put that shout out there. So yeah.
Okay, and Matt, you also didn't tell us that when you were 16, you were selling over like 20K a week. Like, wait, I need to know a background on that. Like, what's that about?
Yeah. So my first real job was I guess you could say like any teenage boy's dream job. I worked at Foot Locker. So like, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I collected a lot of sneakers, a lot of which I still have, but 99% of which I don't really wear, and I sold a lot of them as well. But yeah, I was just like, I think I get that from my brother. My brother's always been really good at talking to people. He's like a motivational speaker and a life coach. So like just selling sneakers at a young age, honestly, I mean, the only way you really ate was off commission. So you had to really sell in order to really be able to have any kind of check for real. So
Right.
and I love sneakers, and honestly, I mean, I just love talking. I mean, Philadelphia sports fan as well, so like it was just easy for me to build conversation with people through like sports. So just honestly, like what they're wearing or even what they're coming in, and then yeah, that's kind of just how it just took off. So yeah, I love sneaks still to this day. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's what's up. And so like, I guess with Kev, with you being head of engineering for CannaGo and Matt, you being head of marketing, you could definitely see how those backgrounds play into where you are now and play into your skill set. So how did y'all come together? Because I know Vic also is head of product. And I think he was a business major as well. Am I correct?
It was actually computer science.
Computer science.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm only business major.
So how did y'all like come together and say, this is what we want to do like with CBD?
Man, Matt, do you want to tell the story or should I tell it?
Bro, all right, I'll tell part, and you say you hop into the second part. So like, at first, like as far as we met at the AUC library. Honestly, like
Club
my
Woody.
main motivation. Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Woody, shout out to Woody. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, it was like, I mean, me really was for some free pizza as well as the internship opportunity. Honestly, like I've never seen before that day, even Vic or Kev anywhere on campus. And I was always like a real introverted person. I didn't really go out or go to like too many campus events for real. But I went to that, and I think I think they sent like handshake meetings out to everybody and stuff like that, right? But long story short, we were all in a meeting, and oh yeah, by the way, let me shout out Vic as well. Vic, let me give a little synopsis or background on him as well. Head of product, originally from head of product and founder, originally from Nigeria by way of Miami and then Tennessee. His background is very, very vast. Started in predominantly in product with like creating mobile apps. He created two video game apps in the App Store and Google Play Store that charted in the top 100 and 200. Also was featured on the local news for one of those apps. He's also he actually ended up getting the software engineer, or I think it was a product internship at the Climate Corp, which was the meeting that we all met at. And he's also worked at a med tech startup in Boston. Just like extremely on resume. And we met actually because like at the internship meeting, when we were like all telling each other, it was like a round robin about us, like everybody just talking about who they were. And when he had stood up, he was telling us all these things like, yeah, like I'm a developer. I've been doing it since I was 15. I quoted top 100, and by like 16, 17 years old, and I'm hearing this, I'm like, damn. I'm just good with like marketing, just talking to people. But I don't know, like I said, I don't know the precise thing about product. Kevin and Vic are immensely talented when it comes to like technical things that I could never even dream about touching. And they both really stood out to me when they were saying things. And afterwards, me and Kev came together, and we came together with Vic as well. And we were like, look, like he stood out, and we were like, look, bro, like we don't know what we want to do together, but we know we got to do something. So he was like, all right, like we got to let's meet at Woody. You know what I'm saying? Like I think we'll leave it tomorrow or some random time, some date. We booked a huddle room, and then we all met. And at first we were going to start an engineering company that was completely different than the company that we ended up starting now. But then we ended up finding our way through cannabis by just like experimenting with a bunch of different ideas. But I'll let Kev really tell more the idea of how we got really into CannaGo. But Yeah.
Yeah, so like Matt said, we first started out as an electrical engineering firm, and none of us did electrical engineering. So, so,
sound like entrepreneurship getting started.
yeah, we were like, okay, we could get government contracts and pay ourselves, and then do the electrical engineering is straight. But we realized quickly that you need a lot of experience to actually get those contracts. So we ended up really going through multiple ideas. We there was days we just sat around and just threw ideas at each other. And then one day we met, and I remember it very vividly. Like, we met, and then I remember Vic was like, okay, guys, what about cannabis? We should go into the cannabis market. This is a market that isn't really being touched on this side of the country,
Yeah.
especially in the southeast area. Nobody's really doing this. So that was when we decided, okay, we're gonna get into CBD. I heard him say cannabis. I was already sold, so I was like, yeah. Being from California, I've been seeing this my whole life, so I was like, yeah, let's get it in the South, honestly. So
Yeah.
we sat there, and this is actually where the name CannaGo came upon us. So we were sitting there in Woody, and Vic gave us the idea, and I was sitting there, I was like, CannaGo, cannabis on the go. And then we went with it, we rocked with it. So that's pretty much where the beginning of CannaGo birthed from.
And so what does CannaGo like offer? Can you tell us a little bit more about like, so what I mean, like you guys met at this function, free food, free knowledge. Y'all were like, oh, we obviously click. We obviously have mindsets that if we like plug them in together, we could get somewhere with this. Let's start a business. Okay, let's start a cannabis business. Like, what was that like researching that market? Like having, I know you said you're from California, so you had like a certain sense of knowledge, like with cannabis being legal, like fully legal, all spectrums in California. What was that like?
Yeah, so honestly, really researching the cannabis market was a crazy process, as we still go through this till this day. There's so many laws that are constantly changing, new laws taking effect, and all of that. So really, at least from the technical side, so we all did our respective research, and then for me specifically, a lot of my research goes into what's allowed in the App Store. And one of the biggest things was, for a long time, couldn't have cannabis apps in the App Store, no matter if it's legal, no matter if it's just CBD, which is illegal, federally legal under the Farm Bill. Still, they don't want to touch it. So up until I believe it was January of this year, they actually Apple passed changed their rules, and pretty much they allowed us to submit our app. They allowed cannabis applications under their guidelines. So we actually got into the App Store. I believe it was February 1st. So it was the beginning of February when we actually launched and got into the App Store. So really keeping up with all of those guidelines. For example, payment processing was a crazy thing, because they don't allow us to use certain terminology, because they don't want to deal with certain things. So for example, our payment processor will allow us to deal with CBD, but we have to be very careful about the terminology we use, because if we were to just say something like, we're selling weed, for example, even though we're not technically selling the weed that they would think of, they will take us off. They'll be like, yeah, you guys can't use us anymore. So all of researching all of those guidelines and keeping up with that has been a process. But Matt, I know you have more to say about that as well.
Yeah. So my job primarily was like a whole lot of market research from a bunch of different angles. So obviously, like from an organizational standpoint, like as far as like we all had to really look into seeing, like, say for example, obviously like what licenses we would have to possess, if any, to be an ancillary product, what to be an ancillary company here in Georgia. Even just about like what products we could carry, like vape versus non-vape products, say for example, or even and then as far as marketing, things from like things as big as billboard advertising, and if that's even possible, to even small things like like say for example, advertising within a certain foot distance of a school or of a church, or and then even with social media, that's a whole nother beast. All the different times we've had to fight being shadow banned or content being taken down. So it's a lot of red tape around it still, predominantly just due to the stigma that's still on cannabis. And it's still, remember, it's like cannabis technically is still it's still a F1 counted as an F1 drug technically. So it's still on that federally illegal list, so like on that federally prohibited list. So it's just a lot of stuff we have to go through, even when it comes to just legality on a county by county basis. And then obviously, like as we continue and want to continue to grow and stuff like that, and obviously expand this product to different states, because like Kev said, our goal is primarily East Coast cannabis. This is a product that we really want to bring and sweep up the East Coast, because it's that's where the underserved market is. From as far south as we are right now to even back home, in Philly and further up the tri-state to New York and stuff like that, in the New England states. So, and even stretching out to the Midwest. So it's like legality for cannabis from like as far as like weight, like how much you can carry legally in a car. The laws change on a county by county, state by state basis. So like it's something that we always have to be like super, super, super hyper aware of.
Yeah. And so I know you spoke about like, especially from like a marketing branding aspect, there are certain things that you can and cannot say, especially with Instagram. Cause I remember watching your interview a while back, but essentially like, what is it, like Instagram, like bans, like not, it's not like a ban, but it's like a ban of like anything cannabis related. Like you can't say anything, like even remotely. And I think when we were in DC, we went to like a couple of dispensaries out there, and they were like, they can't say that they sell cannabis. They can say that they have cannabis.
And you're giving a donation.
You can donate to get
given as a gift. Yep.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy, man. Like just to it's a madhouse, man. It really, really is. Even like say for example for like delivery apps and stuff like that in places like DC, like they have to, like you said, they have to brand it as if they're like giving a gift. But even in doing stuff like that, that can cause a whole lot of legality issues and red tape issues with what Kev was talking about as far as payment processing, because like say for example, like all these things are getting put on balance sheets technically, right? So they have to report what is being sold to these banks. Like they have to know where these funds are coming from. So man, Vic fought crazily and Kev for us just to get proper banking, and like proper banking that's cognizant and actually understands what we do. And then payment processing as well, that isn't going to hit us over the head, and also is like complying with it. So yeah, it's a lot of red tape around it, and people have to kind of get creative in the way to sell it too. So yeah.
I know you guys talk a lot about, and even just now, you talk a lot about the stigma around the cannabis industry. I know, especially in social media, Gen Z and millennials have been seeing a lot of uptick in learning about cannabis, and there's been a huge movement with just changing that stigma and changing the way that we see cannabis and that we, especially as a people, interact with cannabis. So my question is, how did working on CannaGo, working with each other, and I know y'all have like, your own personal histories with cannabis in a couple of different ways. How did that change your appreciation for this product and for this industry?
Oh, you're muted, bro. You muted, bro.
You good, bro. Personally, for me, it's I think one of the biggest things and one of the most eye-opening things for me was actually interacting with people. Matt and I go on canvases pretty much every weekend. We're actually going after this interview, but I mean after this podcast. But pretty much we talk to people who actually want to use our product and sign up, and talking to those people and seeing how excited they get about being able to access CBD and Delta 8 products, hearing people's stories and hearing their relationships with the plant. Really, that's really eye-opening to me, because I'm kind of the person who never really had a stigma against cannabis, but hearing the way it helps people outside of my own personal experience really gave me a new outlook on it. So I wouldn't say it necessarily broke a stigma for me, but I would say it gave me more appreciation for the plant, because I'm realizing I have my own personal reasons for use, but I also realize other people have their personal reasons as well, and their reasons might even be more significant. I don't want to say more significant, but there's actually people who rely on this plant in order to live their daily lives. There's people who might have pain all day, and unless they get this CBD topical, they literally cannot function. So meeting people like that and really hearing their stories just opened up my eyes in a new way.
So what are, like, from each of you, 3 myths that you would like to debust right now about cannabis?
Oh boy. Just 3? Number 1, that it makes you unproductive. I can speak to that in my own personal life, as well as even just people that I know. And there's even data to back that. Like, say, for example, sometimes, and a lot of times, like a lot of those comments are made just because there's a big knowledge hurdle that comes with cannabis, right? And there's a lot of just open assumptions about it. But yeah, I would say number 1, that it makes you unproductive. Number 2, that I would say number 2, that it what would be number 2 on the hierarchy? I would say number 2 would be the fact that that, oh yeah, like a lot of people assume that, like, when you think about cannabis, that it can only be consumed in one form. Like, a lot of people, when you say cannabis, you say weed. A lot of people think that that you're talking about the physical flower, only in flower form. There's a lot of different ways. There's a product category for every single kind of user, from beverages to edibles to whether it's topical creams, like say, for example, like face creams or even roll-ons. There's tinctures. There's all different forms of concentrates for people. So, and even infusing it into food as well safely is another way. And I guess my last, the last one would be that that people of color don't want to get involved in it, don't want to get involved in the space. It's incredibly, and we can speak to this. Kev can speak to this too. Vic could as well. It's incredibly hard, and even just like, well, Kev can speak to it more directly because he lived in California. He's more so seeing how the rollout of cannabis, like, equity as far as like licenses being distributed and just overall participation in the market is in California. But that's one thing that, like, I mean, we're really kind of marginalized out of this space in a lot of different aspects, from, like, whether it's through growing and cultivation or even ancillary products like our own, or even physical storefronts as well, like in the retail aspect of it. So it's just, yeah. I guess those would be my big things. Like, there's a lot of people of color, even some that have been incarcerated and some that haven't, but there's a lot of people that want to get into this space, but a lot of it can be seen as very intimidating. There's a big, like, obviously, like, legality hurdle and just understanding all that, and then obviously with the education of the plan as well. But those will probably be my 3.
Okay.
I think, my 3. I think my first one, I'm gonna go with Matt's first one as well. Cannabis users are lazy. I think I want to debunk that myth. I mean, look at Uncle Snoop. Snoop, most marketable, working hard.
Exactly.
But I mean, it's really just, everything kind of comes with moderation and how you use it. Because, like, for example, if someone was walking around drunk all day, of course they're not going to get anything done, So I think it's really just about just knowing yourself and how you react when you utilize such products.
Right.
And Number two for me is gonna be, oh, this one's for the old heads. Everybody's not out here lacing their weed, So I think a lot. There's a huge generational thing, because and one of the biggest reasons for the stigma currently is a lot of people in their 40s above. They were living in a time where people were out here really lacing their weed, and
Wow.
and a lot of people I've interacted with have that stigma, because they've seen people mixing marijuana with other drugs, and have been and have seen the repercussions of that.
Yeah.
So whenever they hear cannabis, that's immediately where their mind goes. Even though there's a legal market now, so there's a lot more regulation, and also that's all. I think there's always a danger with that, but I don't think that necessarily coincides with the actual cannabis plant. And then number three, oh yeah, number three, I know one that I want to talk about. Everybody who uses cannabis, using cannabis doesn't always mean you're trying to become high. So there's topical products, there's CBD. So there's other ways that you can use cannabis that actually help your health. That's well, I don't want to say actually helps your health, but are meant for the reasons that you use marijuana without the actual psychoactive effects. So you can actually use CBD, for example, without a psychoactive effect, in order to help with stress, help with pain, help with anxiety, things of that nature. So yeah, that's a big stigma that people have. People think, oh, just if you're using cannabis, you're trying to get high, but that's not always true.
So there was something that you guys said that you, in your entire ecosystem, you like to say bud. Like, where does that come from? Why do you guys reference bud or like use that term?
Yeah. So bud actually comes from our slogan, "Let's be buds." And yeah, so it's bigger than that, right? Bud it's multifaceted. So obviously, bud is like you said, you can think of a bud as like a small plant that's blooming or growing. But even further, furthermore than that, we kind of like to coin ourselves and position ourselves. And really, what we want to be to people is like a delivery bud, a delivery friend. So we really try to like we really push a lot of those themes out of just like what a friend does, right? Sharing, being reliable, being consistent, one that you can feel safe and secure with, and just like a lot of our core values and things that we really like to build that are all built within that term. But so those are things that we like. And not only our only buds aren't only our consumers, as far as like the people that order on the app and stuff like that, but our buds are our store partners. Our buds are every single one of our followers across our social media platforms. Anybody that's come across our website or our blogs, anybody that's shown us any support up to this point. Like that's who our buds are. That's what it means to be a bud. So that's really what the term. That's really what it means in itself. It's about being a friend to others. Being reliable, being consistent, pulling each other up, lifting others up, and like the term within a term, I guess.
Being a bud.
Who came up with the slogan? You did, Matt?
Yeah. In the Chick-fil-A, in a little Chick-fil-A pavilion, right behind why am I forgetting the name of it?
On Morehouse campus?
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah, right behind Kilgore. Yeah, right behind Kilgore.
That's tough.
Yeah, I actually still got it in my journal too, like in the book I got from there. But yeah.
So why did you guys like decide to go with like a delivery service using like couriers and not just like a brick and mortar, a storefront? Because I know when it comes to delivery, like you said, there's so much more that goes in from like legalities, policies, et cetera. And you're actually like delivering. So you have to use some type of third party unless you have your own courier service to get the products there.
So one of the biggest reasons for that is all the red tape that we're going through with delivery is the same red tape that a store would have to go through, the storefront would have to go through. And we wanted to be a solution for that, because talking to these storefronts, we realized that something like this may take them 100,000 to build out. So we're taking away that stress, and we saw that there was a need for it, because there's not really anyone out here in Atlanta doing what we're doing in a successful way. So we really wanted to be that solution for these stores. And then also, the storefronts already have their own individual red tape they have to go through just to open a storefront. So you have to have the proper licenses, you have to have the building, you have to make sure you're up on your county's laws, because depending where you open up, there might be different laws for that county. So we were real big on tech, and we wanted to be a solution for that side, and we wanted to implement the tech for these stores and solve their problems. Matt?
Oh yeah, and also like inventory management is super fragmented throughout the whole entire, like, well, from a store's aspect, because like when it comes to the cannabis side of things, there's not many products built out there to support cannabis companies or cannabis brick and mortars. For example, they have to either settle for not settle, but they have to like normally use Shopify or some of these other services that aren't necessarily built for their kind of site, because like Kev said, there's a lot of illegality and just red tape with just the cannabis industry as a whole, but especially when you get to brick and mortar, because you have to have, like you said, the proper licensing. You have to stay up on the proper licensing. In addition to that, like all your products have to have the proper COAs and licenses. So say, for example, if somebody wanted to walk in a store, and ask for a particular product and be able to see a COA or be able to know that product was lab tested or properly tested and pass all the certifications and stuff like that, there's a whole process to it. So yeah, like Kev said, we really just wanted to try to ease some of that pain. And like he said as well, there's a huge overhead investment that a lot of these stores have to make, from an insurance standpoint, from a labor standpoint, among other things as well. So we just wanted to be able to offer this service. And I know Kev's probably used to seeing it all out on the West Coast, but over here on the East Coast, it's not much like it, So we wanted to start in the market where it's legal, and there's still an audience that needs to be served with all these brick and mortar stores here locally in Atlanta and even in other cities on the East Coast.
As much as we enjoy your story about CannaGo, we also realize that you guys are entrepreneurs as well. So definitely want to touch on some more about like how this entrepreneurship journey has affected you, some of the things that you've learned. Just go from there. So my first question is, I know you started in 2018 and now it'll be in 2022. You guys are almost 4 years in now.
2019, I think. 2019.
No, you started 2018 or 2019?
It gets a little fuzzy, because remember, we had the first company and then we had CannaGo. So I think CannaGo might have been started 2019.
Okay. 2018. Okay. What has been some of the biggest lessons that you guys have learned with being entrepreneurs?
So I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is the power of networking. And the power of networking is crazy, because when I got to Morehouse, I knew how important networking was, but going on this entrepreneurship journey has showed me networking is even more powerful than I thought it was, because every connection we've made has been through another connection that we already had, pretty much for the most part. So all our best connections come through warm intros. Cold intros are cool. Cold emails are cool, and trying to reach out to people and get them to sit down with us. It works, but we get a lot more no's that way. Every warm intro that has came through one of our connections or someone within our network, those have turned out to be the most rewarding conversations. We either get amazing advice, sometimes maybe even an investment will come out of it, but those are definitely the most rewarding convos. And sometimes it's just having someone introduce you who already has a good relationship with someone and is known for doing amazing things will just put you on a higher pedestal than just reaching out to those people by yourself.
Right.
I guess one of the things for me, I guess, would be just like the personal management aspect of it, and like not to be cliche, but like self-care, managing burnout, and stuff like that, because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, like we get so locked in on the vision, and we sacrifice a lot for what we do, that it does take a toll on you, you know. So like even just creatively, like people like going through burnout phases, and just trying different tactics, or well, honestly, like, and honestly, me personally, just the importance of becoming more consistent in instilling certain things in my like daily routine. Like even like whether it's like early morning meditations, like positive affirmations, starting like I have a whole routine in my mornings. But it really helps me in my day, gets me in the right mind state. And not to be spiritual, but I mean, but prayer also helps for me a lot. Um, and just like the mentally like keep staying grounded mentally. Like because I mean there's a lot that entrepreneurs endure mentally, a lot of emotions that we manage within ourselves, and emotions that that come from external forces as well, just like any human. Um, so like I guess these aren't really just things I would preach to entrepreneurs, but to people, to creatives, period, and not only creatives, no matter what field you're in. Just managing. I mean, it's mental health awareness month too as well, but just really making sure that you're managing things like mental burnout, um, different keeping fun activities like to keep your creativity going, unplugging daily to commune with nature. That's something that's really been big for me, even if it's taking 5 minutes to just sit outside on the patio or something like that. But it makes a difference, you know. So yeah, the mental aspect.
Matt, I know, well, Kev, I know you are still working. Matt, are you a full-time entrepreneur or
Full time?
full-time? Okay. Okay. So how do those views differ between the two of you of like how you go along this journey? Because I know they both come with very like rewarding experiences, but also very different challenges at times.
Yeah.
I know time management is crazy for Kev, so I'll let him go.
Yeah, man. It's tiring. I be tired like every day. But I mean, really, I think for me, this has been a very rewarding experience because learning this time management has been crazy because personally throughout, especially in high school, I was not the most organized person. I wasn't the best at time management. Once I got to college, that's when I really started buckling down on this time management stuff because I realized there's so much I want to do. And at the end of the day, no matter what I do, I only have 24 hours in a day. So I figured that I had to figure out the best way to utilize that 24 hours. So being in school, working, and being an entrepreneur, that's when my time management really started going crazy because that's when I realized, okay, I know I have to be at this job. Shout out Mr. Hughes, Morehouse Bookstore. No, I had to be there at a time. And then I knew that I had class at a certain time. So those were the things that were pretty much on my schedule. I knew, okay, I have to do this at these times. And then as far as entrepreneurship goes, CannaGo, during that time, we didn't necessarily have a schedule per se. It was kind of more, we just know we need to grind it out and get this stuff done. So using all my knowing that I had to use my free time in order to work on CannaGo, I kind of structured my schedule around that. So I knew when I wasn't in class, this is what I'm working on. And if I'm not studying, this is what I'm working on. So now that I'm working, it's actually became a little bit easier, not too much easier, but a little bit easier because now I'm only balancing 2 things versus the 3 things plus a social life and everything else that comes with college. So, but I think that the hardest thing for me sometimes is after going through the work day, working more. So that's what really gets tiring because not only do sometimes I get calls during work and then have during my break, I might have to fix something, but also after work when I just went through the whole work day, taking my mind off of my job and putting my mind into CannaGo mode. Sometimes that's a little difficult, but as time goes on, I get better and better at it every day. So one day we're gonna be great at it. And well, really the goal is to never have to do that again and be able to work on campus.
Absolutely. You talking the language.
So obviously we're talking about money talks, and with you being your full-time CannaGo, your full-time salaried, and you being a full-time entrepreneur, like how is the profit margin in this industry? Like, is it even, I mean, obviously it's lucrative, but is it even lucrative? Like from all the red tape, the risk and everything going on?
So like I'll be frank, being what so all right, traditionally, like when you're thinking of delivery services, a lot of people, like when you think of Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, the gig economy model of it can be very, very expensive from a margin standpoint, because there's a lot of external expenses that you have to like say for example, right, like because when you start employing and having a fleet of drivers, say for example a fleet of gig workers, that's like you have to care for those people. Not only do you have to care for those people, you have to adequately pay them. You have to make sure that their car is protected in the event of anything. You have to make sure that they're protected. You have to make sure that the products are protected in the car for the ultimate user as well. And then in addition to like I said, all the things around just like carrying limits and stuff like that as well. Making sure that each driver is compliant with that as well. So the margin aspects out of it can get very like the margins can get very low when it comes to delivery, honestly. But honestly, I'll be real with you. At our scale, that's not something that we're honestly really even too concerned about. Our main value is really in just providing the service to people, and giving people an opportunity to experience the platform, because there's well over 50 dispensaries down here in Atlanta. And the vast majority of them, not the vast majority of them, they all have relied on foot traffic only up to this point, except for occasional like U.S. Postal Service parcel deliveries and stuff like that that may take multiple days, and you have to pay $15-$20 for if you want it expedited and all this other stuff. So our main goal right now is just primarily just getting the product out to as many people as possible, allowing them to be able to get a chance to experience it, give us valuable feedback so that we can continue to make their experience more and more positive. And from a store aspect as well, giving them a chance to be able to offer a complimentary service to their customers as well. Some that may have to travel 30 minutes just to come to that particular store, being able to give them an alternative, as well as a fun way to engage their consumer base, help them generate passive income as well. And then as well, the same thing from the user side, as far as get as much feedback from them, how we can make their experience better. Because the whole cannabis industry is just very fragmented and broken apart. So we like to see this product as a way to kind of unify that whole ecosystem. So like, yeah, as far as and as far as how it works right now, like I guess the whole ecosystem of it. So we have stores on our platform, similar to like a Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats model, as far as like, say for example, we take a percentage off of like, say for example, a particular price item, say for example. But one thing that we do allow with our platform is we allow for a free economy. So what I mean by that is, like, say for example, if we take 5% of a product price, say for example, right, a store then has the freedom on our platform to add that 5% into their sale price. And we've seen just through a bunch of different data through our own platform and through other platforms as well, that people are willing to pay anywhere from 5 to 15% higher than retail price for their platform, to receive their product on a platform. That's just how, and we like to call that, or see it as, I like to see it as like the convenience factor.
Yeah.
As far as what people are willing to pay or compromise for that. And honestly, I mean, when you think about it, it's worth it, because that 5 to 15% you're going to end up paying probably double to put some gas in your tank, and it'll save you the peace of mind of having to sit in Atlanta traffic on 85 or 20 for a good 30 or 40 minutes as well. So,
especially if you're doing it consistently.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's just like kind of the whole methodology behind it. We're playing a long game. And our focus is primarily in just offering the best experience to our users, to our buds, being our users and our store partners. And as long as we continue to do that, continue to improve that experience, we'll get everything that we want out of this, which is really just impacting lives. So, yeah.
So obviously support is majorly important for an entrepreneur. Most businesses are started with having some type of support system. What was it like going home freshly out of college and be like, hey mom, hey dad, I'm gonna start delivering cannabis. Like I'm gonna start a cannabis delivery company.
I'll let Kev go ahead and tackle that one first, and I'll hop in.
Yeah, my parents were actually surprisingly supportive. I don't, and not surprisingly in the sense that they don't support me, but in the sense that they haven't always seen eye to eye with me on cannabis. So they're actually really supportive. They see all our stuff on LinkedIn, everything that we post, as well as the conversations that we have, and they're always calling me about stuff they see on LinkedIn. They're like, oh, you guys did this, congrats. And then as far as my uncles and everything, my uncles love it. They're always asking me about the product and everything. So I mean, honestly, my family's super supportive about it. They just really want to see me do well, so they're going to support anything I do. So they've been super supportive.
Yeah, and as far as me, my parents are super supportive too. As far as their journey to it, how they found out was a little bit different because I was in school working on CannaGo and stuff like that, and working as well. Then I dropped out of school and was still working on CannaGo. So obviously that conversation with your parents, right? To tell them that, hey, mom and dad, like I'm leaving school to pursue this, can sound a little bit crazy to the average parent. You're like they're going to naturally react like, whoa, okay, like. So at first it was that natural precaution out of love, because you know your parents, like they always want you to just land on your feet, and it all comes from just like parents wanting what's best for you, you know, and they always want you to go the path of least resistance. So me telling them that I want to go, that I knowingly want to choose a harder path, I had to obviously have a really, really good planning behind that on why I had the faith in this that I had, and making sure that I explain that to them, because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we talk a specific language, right? We just throw a lot of information, we throw a lot of numbers out there to people. So like at first, that was a big thing for me, just learning how to properly explain it to my family and people around me in a way that they can understand conceptually what we're doing without overwhelming them with too much information. So it was, and also, I mean, at the end of the day too, I had to provide for myself. I mean, I still have bills, I live in an apartment, so I have to have to feed myself and stuff like that as well. So there were a lot of different things, like as far as like financial modeling. I've helped the startups with financial modeling locally here in the city, and like different ed tech companies and stuff like that. In addition to doing this now, so like it's time wise, my time was like it was really just making sure I balance, like when it was work in CannaGo, it was making sure I balance work, CannaGo, and personal life. Now that a lot of my days is primarily with CannaGo, it's just balancing that personal life with CannaGo and making sure I'm taking proper time to decompress and stuff like that. But my parents, everyone around me, my friends, they were super, super supportive. They were like, okay, like they just want to make sure that we're going about it in a way, and we're taking a lot of things into account. So I just had to really make sure I conveyed that to them in a way that that they were able to understand, and it wasn't overwhelming. And it was like, okay, like no, we're not just selling weed. This is what we're doing. Like we're we're ancillary cannabis delivery service that partners with stores to facilitate delivery to users. And it's like, okay, so like, what does that mean? And then just going through that whole process and just teaching them that. But yeah, no, like I was always, not always, but I mean, I was a cannabis user. So like, and maybe Kev probably relates to me in this. So like, I had a personal passion for the product already. And for a while, like obviously, like right, like it's not the easiest thing to tell your parents that you consume cannabis. So it's like, okay, like you gotta like tiptoe that and walk that walk that line too. But surprisingly, when I ultimately did tell my parents, they responded exceptionally well. And it was actually like met with more laughter and like why didn't you tell us before, than like, oh my gosh, you're doing so. And being that my parents come from that generation that Kev spoke of earlier, just like generation, like, you know, like I have older parents, and they come from an era when a lot of propaganda was pushed to stigmatize cannabis, um, but they received it really well. So like we're really thankful for the support system of people that we have all around us. Kev's parents, his loved ones, you know what I'm saying? I know they've uplifted and supported him. My parents, my loved ones, my people around me, my friends, they've uplifted and supported me, and the same thing with Vic as well. We're lucky to really have a really good ecosystem of supportive people around us.
That's for sure. I want to go back to something that y'all said a little bit earlier. I know one of the biggest things, Matt, you mentioned, and Kev, you definitely shook your head in agreement, is that y'all didn't focus on monetizing out the gate. Y'all really wanted to focus on, and still are focusing on, perfecting the product and really making sure that your users on both ends, right, the stores and people who are ordering the service and using the service, are satisfied to the highest degree. I wanted to know, how did y'all think that affected the way that the two of you and Vic came to this business and really like have continued to grow it?
So pretty much, and that's actually a very good question, because the thing is, if you're focused on money, and somebody actually told me this recently, I forget who told me, but someone told me, if you're focused on the money, you'll never have a good product. And that's because you aren't connecting with the people that you're working with. If you're focused, if Jeff Bezos made Amazon and was focused from the first day, I'm getting to $1 billion, and that's the only thing he cared about, and it doesn't worry about anything else, and he just wants to monetize his company. He wants the revenue, he wants the profit. He probably wouldn't be where he's at today, because he would have quit. Because you, as an entrepreneur, you're going to probably have a good 5-10 years maybe before your company's seeing the profits that you want it to see, you know, unless you, every once in a while, there's the unicorn company that just blows up. But most companies need to go through that groundwork of pivoting, figuring out what it is that their company actually is going to, what's actually going to be your niche market. Because, for example, we've been working on CannaGo for 3-4 years, and probably within that time, we've probably changed the product maybe about 5, 6, 7 times. We've had to change our direction, whether it be a minor pivot or it be a complete pivot, because your market and your consumers, your partners, that's how you're going to figure out what you actually need to do. And when you come in with an idea, you can't necessarily be married to your idea, because you're going to face problems that you might not have known existed until you got into that market. And a lot of people are really fixed on, I want my company to be this way, and I want my company to do this. And a lot of times that's where that's the downfall, because there's so many things that you would never know until you're actually out there doing what you doing or providing your service.
Yeah. And lastly, I mean, we're not in this, like, companies care about profit, brands care about people. And we like to see ourselves as more of a brand than just a company. We're building this, like, we built this for customers first, like, and for the people that we want to benefit from this first, you know. So like, that's our ethos. As long as we stay true to our consumers, our buds, all the people that support us, and make sure that we keep their interests first, everything else will always work itself out. And I think that's kind of the mindset you have to operate out of. And honestly, as a creative too, like, I mean, that's really what it's for. Like, I remember I watch podcasts. I mean, obviously, right? There's a lot of different podcasts. And I remember it was a Rap Radar podcast. Will Smith was on. Shout out to Philly again. And he was asked about like, what's the only thing that really brings fulfillment, or like a sense of purpose. And that's like knowing that what you've done is useful to somebody else. Like, I feel like we all feel like we're all truly here to serve like, we're all here to serve other people. in some form, shape. And it's the only thing that really brings fulfillment. It brings a lot of fulfillment to us, like, and that's like not just saying, that's like actual physical words, because whether it's me and Kev canvassing out in the Beltline and somebody coming up and they're super stoked and super hyped that this kind of product even exists over here, or it's a product getting dropped off and us talking to one of the consumers and just talking about how their whole experience was, or talking to one of our store owners and the impact this made for them, or just anybody. Like, that's who we do this for, you know. So we built this for the buzz, and that's what it's all about.
One of the last questions that we always like to ask our guests is, I know you guys have already been working on this 3 and 4 years, but you have a truly innovative product. Where do y'all see yourself in maybe the next year or two? I'm not even gonna go 5 years, but the next year or two.
Okay. Where I see us over the next year is definitely not just solely in Georgia as well. We really want to get this product offering out and expand and become a multi-state operator to get this in as many people's hands as possible. So over the next year, look for us to have a much bigger host of stores. Way more. I mean, we have over 750 products on the platform right now as it stands. We're going to far supersede that. And just look for like a lot of more educational. We really prioritize educational content too, whether it's in the form of blogs or even just like informational content, and just making it edible to people, allowing people to be able to like coming up with creative ways to allow people to be able to associate cannabis with their everyday lives. Like, say, for example, if you know that some of the terpenes that are in a certain strain of sativa are in the bananas that you eat every day, or the apples that you eat every day, or the trees that produce oxygen for you to breathe, or the lotion that you use on your hand, it becomes more like, it makes it more bite-sized for people. So over the next couple of years, just look for us to continue to find creative ways to get content out to people. We really want to start a bunch of different cooking content, not only quick at home recipes, but collaborations with restaurants and small businesses to help promote their work, as well as teach people creative ways to safely infuse cannabis into their food. A bunch of different stuff, around a bunch of different user generated content, collaboration with influencers, a ton. Well, I'll leave all the product features to Kev, because I don't want to say too much there, because I can't create any of them. I can just talk about it. And yeah, just a lot more fun stuff. A lot of positive collaborations. We want to also start collaborating and finding nonprofits and local companies here in Georgia that we can collaborate with for different months and different initiatives, and just continue to look for us to continue to serve our buds. That's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah, and on the product side, just expect a lot of new product offerings. Don't want to get too deep into it, but we're always keeping our buds in mind. We want to update the product, and we're always listening to feedback, always figuring out what can make the checkout process smoother, what can make the user experience smoother. So we'll just be working on that. So expect that in the future. A lot of new product offerings.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on Beat the Maze podcast. We really appreciate you guys being here. And we're going to close it out with social. So Ian, where can they find you at?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at IanB with 2 underscores, TikTok Ian.B3.
And you can find me on Instagram at Jasia Robinson. And you can find Beat the Maze podcast on Instagram at Beat the Maze podcast, and YouTube now, because now we have our video functions. And where can they find CannaGo?
You can find CannaGo on Twitter at CannaGo, TRY, CannaGo, CannaGo. That's our handle on Twitter. That's our handle on Instagram. That's our handle on TikTok. No underscores, just plain at CannaGo. My personal handles, you can find me on Instagram at math. Don't kill me for the username. It came up a long time ago when I was younger, but math, like mathematics, 5 underscores, and then you, like pointing to you, YOU. Yeah, it's a lot of underscores. The username was taken. I thought I was the first one coming up with something clever, but I wasn't. And yeah, No,
Yeah. You guys can find me on Instagram at k.tolliver, 2 L's, 1 underscore at the end.
And Victor's.
And Victor's, Vic, sometimes he's on social media and sometimes he's off. So honestly, like, I mean, I could give you his social media right now, but it might be deleted 2 weeks from now. To be honest with you, I strive to have that kind of discipline when it comes to social media. To be honest, so,
Vic on Instagram at nwa.vi.
Vic, right.
Okay.
Again, thank you guys so much. This definitely will not be the last time that Beat the Maze sees you. I know our audience has collected so much value from you today, just in hearing your stories and hearing what you're doing. And we love to see it.
Yeah, continue beating your maze.
All right. Thank you guys. We appreciate it.
Have a good one.